Welcome to A Leader Story, where we explore the unique paths of extraordinary leaders. In each episode, we ask the same 7 questions to our guests, revealing the diverse journeys and insights that shape their success. Join us as we uncover the stories that make each leader's experience truly one of a kind. Today, we have Matt Easton, a visionary leader with over 2 decades of experience in the tech industry, currently heading digital platforms for North America at Amazon Web Services. Matt has also led impactful initiatives at Internap, DTS Consulting, and Allegiance Telecom. He's an active board member at Latte Break and Rock, advocating for professional growth and community support. Join us as we explore Matt's journey, his innovative approach to technology, and his passion for fostering inclusive environments. Matt, what is one decision you made that was a turning point for your leadership?
Yeah, Joe, what's interesting about that is I don't know if there's a one decision that's been a turning point for me, but what I can tell you is there was a turning point in my career that I witnessed something that I think galvanized the way that I would lead moving forward. I was in a leadership conversation with multiple leaders at the table, and one of the leaders came to the conversation ill-prepared to provide the feedback that was needed. And unfortunately, that leader was berated in front of the team and made to feel less than, uber small, was not given any type of guidance of where the expectation wasn't met, just that it wasn't met. I think at that moment, I realized the power of words and the power of tone and environment and culture. And what that did for me is really helped me to believe and understand that we all are leaders. We all have an opportunity to lead, and words have power. Words have meaning. People have value. And the value is not just around what they bring to the job, but who they are. And we need to be, as leaders, mindful of both of those dualities, both who people are and both what they bring to the table. And if we're truly going to be leaders, we have to set the right expectation. And so I've kept that in mind throughout my leadership journey, because I never wanted to be the person that made someone feel that way. And I absolutely didn't want to be on the other end of feeling that way. And so that has been a memorable moment for me.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think it's those pivotal times that do shape our style as leaders, right? It's a lot of times you hope it's the good that you see in a leader, but a lot of times it's the bad. It's the I've learned what I shouldn't do moments that maybe are the most impactful. Unfortunately.
Absolutely right. I tell my kids all the time, as parents, we're constantly teaching. We're either teaching you the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but we're always teaching, right?
Yep.
So
that's good. That's really good. All right, going into the next question. How do you foster innovation and creativity within your team?
Well, now that's an easy question for me. First of all, I'm extremely inquisitive. I love to learn and be curious. And I love to pull the best out of people, right? And so for me, it's really about giving people an opportunity to find their passion, to understand what they're good at and pull that out of them. I find a lot of times that creating an environment where people can fail and fail fast and know that they have the psychological safety to do that, to question, to be inquisitive as well, but also to really think about the diversity of thought, right? So when I build teams, my goal is to build a team that does not look like me, does not think like me, that actually represents the global workplace and the workforce that we're looking to serve, either in our community or as our customer base. And by doing that, it really allows for us to think through problems with a different lens, and come up with solutions that are scalable across multifaceted, multidimensional problem sets. And so for me, it's really about allowing folks to show up authentically, think diversely, and collaborate holistically across the organization.
That's really good. I like it. And so let me double click on that a little bit too. So like, how does the response to failure give that innovative or creative thought?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people are scared to be vulnerable. Right. And in that vulnerability, I think, is true creativity, because we're using our imagination. And
Yeah.
As adults, we tend to shy away from imagination because it makes us feel uncomfortable, because it's generally something we can't control, the parameters of which. And so when we are given the space to think freely, with the time and opportunity to be intentional about it, it really allows us to think about the art of the possible. And if we think about the art of the possible and are able to deliver on it quickly, if we fail and we fail fast, what we generally do is we learn from it, and we're able to ideate and help others to ideate. And we generally will get to a better solution faster than we would have in the past. But what we also do is provide an opportunity for folks to really enjoy the process of being creative, right? And when you build a muscle around that creative mind, you start thinking about problems differently, and you start thinking about how you can solve problems differently. And I think that really builds a muscle within people that they can leverage not only in the workplace, but throughout life.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I'm glad we double clicked on that. That's really good stuff. Question 3.
Yeah.
How do you balance driving results with maintaining a positive team culture?
So it's interesting. I think really comes down to the foundation that you build to begin with, right? Nothing happens without the people to make the things happen, right? I know we're all talking about generative AI, but it still needs people. We still need people. We're not there yet. But the reality is it takes time to invest in your teams, in your people. And so for me, it's really about understanding the team that I put together, understanding what they're looking to accomplish in their careers, helping them build a foundation of where they can be successful, setting the right expectations, having a mutual respect as we set that foundation of what my expectations are, what their expectations are, and goals. And once that foundation is built, the rest to me becomes table stakes, right? Because when I can help that person be better, and help them seek to fulfill their goal as it aligns to the priorities of the business, then we're all kind of rowing in the same direction, right? I think what happens a lot of times is you start to manage to the numbers or to the metrics without truly understanding the people, the skill set, the limitations, the opportunity of the team that you're asking to go do that thing. And I think that is a misstep that a lot of leaders happen to have, which allows them to maybe hit the number once or twice, but not consistently. And at the end of the day, they don't build a team or a foundation that continues to grow with them or the business.
That's good. That's really good. So let's take a little bit of a maybe tougher turn here.
Yeah, of course. I love tough.
Yep. Can you describe a moment when you had to make a tough ethical decision?
Well, I'll be honest. I think in leadership, well, especially in sales leadership, that is something that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's good.
Because there's so many opportunities to cut a corner or make a benefit for the team or an individual. If we are not mindful of those situations, we can easily fall victim to them. So I'll give you an example. I lead teams that negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts on a regular basis. And we have customers who do exactly what customers are expected to do, which is to negotiate and to negotiate on behalf of their companies. And we're all salespeople who ultimately, want to have the best result for the company, but also personally for themselves. And there's opportunities in which it's not necessarily illegal, but it's gray areas that you can play in that would benefit the end user or the salesperson, right? And as a leader, I think you have to build a culture that says, we're going to do the right thing by the company. We're going to do the right thing by the customer. And by doing that with integrity over time, the right outcome is going to happen and you will be where you need to be, ideally. There are no shortcuts. There are no fast tracks. And ultimately, you have to live with yourself and you have to make those decisions that ultimately are going to have reverberating effects, positively or negatively. And so I guess what I would tell you is every day that I wake up, every deal that I do, every conversation with a salesperson that I have about a customer facing opportunity is an opportunity for me to make an ethical decision. And I have to lead by example. And so, although it might not feel good, although it might not have the outcome that I would like it to have, I think when we err on making good judgment calls and doing things the right way, as we said before, we're teaching people how to do the right thing. Um, and the right thing is the right thing, whether it feels good or not.
That's good. That's really good. So next question.
Sure.
You talked about feedback earlier in your first answer, so I think this will be interesting in how you answer this one. What role does feedback play in your leadership? How do you both give and receive it?
Oof. Well, so I work for Amazon, and in Amazon, we say feedback is a gift. And I truly believe it is a gift. And it's one that should not be held on to, but given freely. And feedback, true feedback, is balanced, right? It should be actionable. It should be kind, but it should also be direct, right? I should be able to tell you what you did well and where you have an opportunity for growth. And I should be able to tell you to you in such a way that you can actually action it, which means in real time or shortly after, we should be able to have that discussion. I also am a huge proponent of receiving feedback because I constantly want to learn. I want to be better. I want to improve. And I also want you to understand that the same way that I'm going to provide feedback, we should have a bidirectional relationship that I should receive feedback from you as well. And I think when you talk about feedback, it goes back to that original conversation about knowing the people that work for you or work with you and building a team that's built on trust. Feedback only really works when people know that you care about their outcomes and who they are and how they are growing and progressing both professionally and personally. And otherwise, it just becomes paper cuts that are really more detrimental than they are helpful. And so
that's good.
I think, ultimately feedback is great, but it has to be done in a setting where there's trust.
Yeah. Just to get a little more clarity on it too, I'm interested in understanding how you set up a safe space or in terms, because I think when we talk about feedback, especially giving and receiving as leaders, the first thought process is giving it to the people that work for you or receiving it for the person you work for. But I think sometimes the best feedback is when you get it from the people that work for you.
Oh,
right?
God, yes.
And so, as they manage up to you or however you want to call it,
right.
How do you set up an environment that gives the safety to do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as a leader, I'm not expected to know everything, right? And nor do I, nor that out that I know everything. I'm constantly learning, and I ask that my leaders continually learn and go on that journey with me. And so in my relationship with my leaders are the folks that, might report up to me in that structure. I make it very clear that I believe everybody has a voice. Everybody has a perspective, and I move fast. We are a results-driven operation, and so therefore I might make decisions. I may drive outcomes that may not always be the best. And so I want to understand that, and I need to understand that so that I can learn. I say closed mouths don't get fed, and I can't change what I don't know. And so I want to provide that opportunity. And the way that I do it, to be clear about that point, is I listen to what's being said. I acknowledge what's being said. I clarify anything that I didn't understand. And then I make sure that I take the steps to actually make change. Right. And I'll circle back with that person to let them know how that change was made and how it was then worked into my repertoire or into my way of doing business. But the reality is I make sure that I hear it, I make sure that I action it, and then I make sure that I follow back up, because I think the bidirectional and closing the loop is huge.
That's good. That's good. I appreciate the actionable way of doing it too. I appreciate the steps. That's good. I like that a lot. Audience will like that too. So I think that goes well into the next question.
Sure.
How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
Wow. This is a hard one for me because, I am consistently trying to be better, because I know that there's always work to be done.
Mm.
And I believe that it's my job as a leader to get better so that I can help others be better as well. And if I stay stagnant, then I am not doing my job or putting myself in a position to be able to advocate, remove blockers, or develop the people that are in my organization. And so, with that being I try to make sure that I diversify the way that I learn and I grow. I learn from other leaders. I learn from mentors. I learn from mentees. I do a whole lot of reading, because I can control the speed at which I consume. I watch videos because I also am uh, a person who learns by seeing someone else do. And then I challenge myself to try new things often, right? And get that feedback from the team and the folks that are seeing me deliver those results to understand if it's landing the way I land. And then I guess the other thing is by doing, right? I make sure that I do things at scale that try to have impact at scale, and then show others how I go about doing that. And so I think by teaching, I'm also learning and getting a mastery around the things that I do. So I guess it's multimodal, right? At the end
Yeah.
of the day, I try to try it all and hope that majority of it sticks.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. So you talked about being an avid reader. So that goes into the last question. Well, what leadership book has influenced you the most and why? And I'll say everyone so far we've interviewed for the show, this was the hardest question. But yeah.
And is it the hardest question because you got to pick one?
And I was gonna say, you don't have to pick one.
All right, I'm glad I don't have to pick one, because I'm gonna share a few. So, Dare to Lead, Brené Brown, right? And the reason why I think that is such a powerful book for leaders is because it really is a raw look at leadership through the eyes of empathy and believing that people are doing the best they can with the tools that they have, and understanding that you have to meet people where they're at, but then also providing them the tools to bring them to where they want to be. Not where you want them to be, but where they want to be.
That's good.
And so I think that's an insightful way to think about leadership. The Caste is another book. And people would say, well, why is that about leadership? Well, in my view, leaders learn the people that they lead. And the Caste really talks about this sociology of how people group think, how people tend to have a hierarchy, and how they put people in a caste system. And if you think about that, it's really the politics that you see played out in companies around the world, right? And hopefully, if you're building a culture of harmony, diversity, equity, inclusion, all the right things that make a company drive and thrive, you are breaking down those systems.
Yeah.
In order to break down those systems, you have to know about these systems and where they come from, right? And so I think it's a great book to really understand the human psychology around that. And I think the last one I would say is the book Rise. And Rise is a great one to kind of piggyback on that, the political realm, which is a lot of folks do their job really well. But one of the things that they have an opportunity to do, which they tend not to, and just because of upbringing and social economic, and there's so many other things that we could go on for hours about, but most people do not do a great job of highlighting the good work that they do. They just work, and they work in a vacuum. And the reality is they expect that everybody will see that the work that they're doing because it's great work. And the reality is that's not the case. We move so fast. We are so focused on the things that we are doing that it's not by anything other than sheer focus that we miss it. And so people need to have a better full around highlighting the things that they're doing, the impact that they're having, and the scale that they're driving. And Rise does a really good job of helping people understand that. and helping to teach people about that. So I think that that's a really good book for leaders to recognize, so that they are a little bit more mindful and intentional about the people that work around them and for them, and how to give them a platform to be highlighted and accessible. And then I think the other part is the realization that people don't understand the power of mentorship and guidance, right? And sponsorship. And I don't think leaders avail themselves to the team in that way as much as they could. And I think leaders need to take the time to realize that they became leaders from somewhere. And there are other folks who are probably brighter, smarter, faster, quicker, more exciting, more phenomenal than they are. And if they're true leaders, all they're trying to do is really grease the skids, open the doors, provide that platform for that next level of leader to come and shine. And if we don't think that, then maybe leadership is not the right place for us.
That's good. That's really good. I mean, it's especially us coming from a technology world.
Yes.
We realize that the best technology isn't always the one that makes it to the customers, or marketing is sometimes a 4-letter word, but the best marketing that goes along with it, right? In how they position themselves and how they build that relationship. And it's no different than us, right? Like,
exactly.
Like you said, I mean, we have to market ourselves. We have to be our best advocate. And in that, going back to even your comment before around, you bettering yourself so you can better others. That's, I think that's when, for me, that was the light bulb in my head of saying, hey, this isn't, because, you always want to be humble, hungry, and smart. If you go back with Patrick Lencioni and the ideal team player and stuff, but humble doesn't mean you can't be on the rooftop saying all the things that you're doing, and at the same time saying all the things that are people that are working for you are doing, and also at the same, what I mean? Like, you have to, because who else is going to do it? Because we're all in our own world thinking. So I'm saying all this because I haven't read Rise. I'm excited to read it now. That sounds cool. I like that.
I love that too. And you said it so right, is the fact that people believe that, sharing. So I look at it like this: if you're sharing the truth, you're not bragging, and it's not arrogance. You're simply stating the facts that others may not be aware of, right? Yep. And if you're stating the fact is you didn't do it alone. You also had a team of people that helped you do it. So again, this is not braggadocious. This is not arrogance. This is simply stating a fact. And by doing that, hopefully you're going to be able to scale something. That's the other part of it, right? Is if it was really good work, others should know about it so that we can scale it across the organization and have a larger impact. That is actually exactly what we want in any company, any organization. And so you're doing yourself and the company a disservice by not doing it.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Well, Matt, that's our last question. Thank you so much for the time that you spent with us today. We can keep talking, recording. I just love talking to Matt. I always leave our conversations feeling super inspired. We ended up recording for another 30 minutes after this episode. Maybe that'll turn into an episode by itself. His perspective and insights are always super impactful. I know I walked away from this episode armed with knowledge to make me a better leader, and I hope you did too. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of A Leader Story. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe to help more people discover these inspiring leadership stories. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. See you next week, and keep writing your own unique leadership story.